Hello children, and I welcome you all to this special English hour. I hope you all are doing fine. Today we will learn something new and exciting. Are you all ready? Let's get started. Let's start our day with a fun quiz. I will be asking you a few questions and you will get 10 seconds to answer each of these questions. And these questions are general knowledge based. Are you all ready to get your general knowledge tested? Come on. Now, your first question. The question is, in which country did the sport volleyball emerge? And you have 10 seconds to answer this question. Your time starts now. It is a pretty simple question, but it is a general knowledge question. And time up. The correct answer is USA. USA is the country where volleyball emerged. Now, let's move to our next question. And the question is, what is Zumba? And your time starts now. Five seconds to go and time up. Were you able to answer this question? Zumba is a type of dance workout. Now, let's move to our next question. The question is, what is the temperature of moon during the day? Is it higher or is it lower? You have 10 seconds to answer this question and your time starts now. This you must have learned in your lower grades. And time up. Were you able to get the correct answer? Yes, the correct answer is higher. The temperature of moon is higher during the day. How many answers did you get right? It is okay if you haven't got all the answers correct, but what matters is that you learned something new. Wasn't it a fun game? Please make a note of the new things that you have learned and share this knowledge with your friends. Before we read today's lesson, let's talk about something. This is about punctuality. I have a few questions for you. Children, can you all tell me, are you always on time when you go to school? When I was in school, I used to be very punctual. But there were certain days when I was not punctual. But do you know what? Since I was a grown-up child, my mother did not pamper me. She would make sure that I do get remarks from my teacher so that I learn something out of it. So when I was in school, especially when I was your age, my mother would not pamper me and make sure that I learn my lesson, which is why I try to be punctual all the time. Now, I have another question. What is the action that is taken against the students when you are late to school? When I was in school, It depended how late you were. For example, if you reached the school just before the assembly was about to start, you were made to stand outside the classroom. If you reached school while the assembly was going on, you were made to stand outside the school. And if you were late, even after the assembly, you had to meet the principal, and nobody liked doing it because it was very scary. And other than that, we used to get late remarks and we had to get it signed from our parents, and that was equally dreadful. So most of us tried to be on time to school. Now, I have another question for you. How does it feel when you are late to school? When I was your age, I used to be late most of the time because of my own fault. I used to hate waking up in the morning, and because of my laziness, I used to end up being late to the school. I used to miss my school bus, which is why I used to reach late to the school, and I ended up getting punished for it. I used to feel very bad. But there were also many instances when I was late to school because of certain circumstances which could not be avoided. I remember getting late to school once because it was raining very heavily and I almost fell into a manhole. That was a very dangerous thing and I reached my school late. And when I explained to my teacher, she understood what it was and she allowed me to sit in the class. So when I used to be late to school, I used to be very embarrassed and I did not like it because I used to be either standing outside the classroom or outside the school. Luckily, I was never so late that I had to stand outside the principal's office, but I still never liked getting punished. Now, the final question. Do you think it is important for us to be punctual? As I said, I have learnt my lesson from my school and that lesson has helped me as an adult too. Being on time is a very good habit. You do not miss anything and you are able to finish your work on time. If you are late or if you are lazy about something and if you try to push your work to tomorrow, it affects your work very badly, which is why it is important to be punctual everywhere, not just when it comes to reaching your school, but to also finish your work on time, finish your homework on time, study on time, so that it affects and helps your other things. For example, if I don't study on time, I won't get enough time to play. If I don't get enough time to play, I will be bored. And then I will not be able to think clearly. Which is why it is very important to be punctual in everything that we do. Now, let's learn some new words. You will see these words in the lesson when we read it. So, I request you to please make a note of these words in your notebooks. अब हम कुछ नए शब्द सीखेंगे. ये शब्द आपको पाठ में नजर आएंगे. तो मैं चाहती हूँ कि आप इन शब्दों को अपने नोटबुक में लिखें. Investigate. 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 The detective was called to investigate the case. Groaned. 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 Raju groaned in great pain because of his stomach ache. Growled. 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 The tiger growled very fiercely. Pavement. 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 We must all follow traffic rules and walk on the pavement. Relieved. 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 Reema was relieved to see her report card. Vanish. 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 The thief vanished in the dark night. Now, we will read a small skit from your textbook. For that, I request you to please open page number 41 of your textbook. I will be reading the skit for you and I want you to point at the words as I read them. And if you don't have a textbook, listen to me carefully. अब हम एक skit पढ़ेंगे. मैं ये skit आपके लिए पढ़ूंगी और मैं चाहती हूँ कि आप अपने टेक्स्ट बुक में उन शब्दों पे पॉइंट करें. और अगर आपके पास टेक्स्ट बुक ना हो तो आप मुझे ध्यान से सुनिए. Characters: Ritesh, a school student. Mrs. Sen, his class teacher. Scene: a classroom. Ritesh: May I come in, madam? Mrs. Sen: Now? Don't you think you are early? Ritesh: Pardon, ma'am? Mrs. Sen: I mean for the second period. You are too early for the second period. Ritesh: I'm so sorry. Ma'am, I'm really sorry. I started well in time from home. You won't believe what happened. Mrs. Sen: We'll see. Let's hear the story first. What happened? Nothing short of an earthquake, I'm sure. Ritesh: No, ma'am, really, ma'am. Honestly, ma'am. Mrs. Sen: Go ahead, go ahead. This is a short skit between two characters. And the characters are Ritesh, who's a schoolboy, and his class teacher. When I read the dialogues, were you able to gauge what was happening in the story? We saw that Ritesh was late to the classroom and he faces his teacher. What does his teacher tell him? She tells him that you are too early. In reality, she is mocking him or actually angry at him, but she is saying it in a funny way. She says that you are too early for the second period and Ritesh is apologizing all the time. He said that he had left early, but something happened which is why he was late. And now the teacher wants to hear as to what exactly happened. Ritesh: I was walking to school as usual. I was halfway down the narrow lane that leads to the market. Suddenly, I heard a scream from the main road. Mrs. Sen: And of course, you had to investigate. Ritesh: Yes, madam. I had to find out if someone needed help. And sure enough, there was this person lying near the pavement. He was groaning with pain. Mrs. Sen: So you took him to Dr. Jadhav? Ritesh: No, ma'am, I didn't get the chance. Just as I reached that man, another man came running out of the shop there with a packet in his hand, and the shopkeeper also ran out shouting, Chor, chor, catch him. Now, Ritesh is trying to explain to his teacher as to what exactly happened. He says that he had left for school on time, but when he reached the main market, he heard someone screaming and he had to investigate. Do you remember this word? Yes, we spoke about it a while ago. Can you guess what investigate means? Investigate means carrying out a proper research to solve a case, just like detectives do. So Ritesh here was being the investigator and he wanted to investigate as to what happened. So he walked a little ahead and saw that there was a man lying on the pavement. Do you remember this word? Yes, this was one of the new words that we learned. Can you all guess what a pavement is? A pavement is the side part of the road where people walk on. So, there was a man who was lying on the pavement and Ritesh saw that he was groaning. Do you remember this word? Yes, this was another word that we learned today. Can you all guess what groaning means? Groaning means crying in pain. So, the man who was lying on the pavement was in deep pain. Ritesh was about to go and ask the man as to what is exactly wrong with him. But then suddenly he heard the shopkeeper screaming "Chor, chor!" as someone was running with a packet. Mrs. Sen, amazing! Quite a handful for you to deal with and all at once. What did you do then? Ritesh, yes ma'am, but the most amazing thing happened then. That man near the pavement, he too got up and began to run with the thief. Without losing a moment, I ran after them. Mrs. Sen, and then you caught them and took them to the police station. Ritesh, we couldn't do that, ma'am. They just vanished around the corner. All this happened so fast. Mrs. Sen, then why are you late? Ritesh, that's not all. I realized that I had left my bag at the shop in the mad rush. So, I ran back to get it. Mrs. Sen, and it wasn't there? Ritesh, no ma'am, it was there all right. But there was a huge hairy brown dog sitting on it. I didn't know what to do. Ritesh is telling his story and there is more to it. He says that he starts chasing the man who was running from the shop, and as he was about to chase him, another man who was lying on the pavement got up and started running. Now Ritesh was trying to chase both of them, but he was not able to catch either of them because both of them vanished. Have we heard this word before? Yes, we have. We spoke about it a while ago. Can you all tell me what does vanish mean? Vanish means disappearing. So both the men disappeared out of thin air. Now, what should Ritesh have done? He should have come to school. But he realized that he had left his bag at the pavement. And when he went back to the pavement, he saw that On his back was lying a big hairy brown dog. Mrs. Sen. Interesting. A dog on a bag in a shop. Ritesh. Yes, ma'am. Even the shopkeeper was surprised. He didn't know where the dog had come from. How that dog growled. We tried all kinds of things to make it move, whistling and clapping and showing him the stick. But he wouldn't budge, and I couldn't leave without my school bag. Mrs. Sen. But I see that you got your bag finally. Ritesh. Yes, ma'am. Finally, the shopkeeper gave me some biscuits. I offered the biscuits to the dog and lured him away from the bag. Mrs. Sen. Okay, so let's say that accounts for 15 minutes. Ritesh. But there is more, ma'am. The poor dog began to follow me to school. It looked so poor and lonely and small. Mrs. Sen. Small? Did you say small? Ritesh. I mean young, ma'am. It was big in size, but it was only a puppy really. And it looked lost. Maybe it was looking for its mother or owner, and I thought it was asking for my help. So I began an enquiry with the other shopkeepers and passers-by, but nobody could tell and couldn't leave it behind. Ritesh's adventure doesn't stop there. He goes to the dog and tries to move it, but the dog growls angrily. They try everything, but the dog just wouldn't move. So, Ritesh thinks of an idea. So, the shopkeeper gives Ritesh some biscuits, and Ritesh tries to feed those biscuits to the dog. Now, do you think the dog would leave Ritesh alone? No, that also doesn't work. The dog starts following Ritesh to school. Ritesh thinks that the dog is either looking for its owner or for his mother, which is why he starts an inquiry with other shopkeepers to find out who the mother of the dog is or who the owner of the dog is. Mrs. Sen. And then you found the owner? Who was it? Ritesh. That's the funny part, ma'am. The puppy itself found the owner. It saw someone across the road and just bounded towards the person. I was so relieved. Then I turned and ran straight to the school. Mrs. Sen. Good boy. Now that your good deeds are done, there is something else you can do. There is a story writing competition coming up. Would you like to send an entry? Ritesh. Who, ma'am? Me, ma'am? Now, I wouldn't know what to write. I am not good at making up stories. Here, Ritesh finally reveals as to what exactly happened. He says that he was not able to find the owner of the dog, but the dog himself found his owner. And after that, Ritesh turns to go to the school. Now, his teacher, Mrs. Sen, has heard the entire story. And in the end, she tells him that there is an upcoming story writing competition and he should participate in it. Can you all tell me why does she say that? Because she knows that Ritesh was cooking up stories and she thinks that he could be a very good writer. She was mocking him and she knew that he was lying, which is why she wanted him to know that she knows. But Ritesh outright denies and says that he doesn't know how to write stories. So this was the story about Ritesh and his teacher. Now it's time for us to end this session. I will see you in our next session. Until then, take care and stay safe. Bye.